Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We are the Fright Club NI, and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's show, we're talking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
It's new. It's brand new. It's a nightmare, and it's fresh and new, and it's Wes Craven's new nightmare. Here we go.
Truly, behind you.
There's nothing there. Dylan, what's wrong? Dylan, stop it. You're scaring me. Dylan.
And we're back with episode 7.3 of Monday Night Frights. Tonight, we're heading back to Springwood!
Yay!
Or are we?
Are we?
Who knows? Who knows where we're going?
Ooh.
Is it Elm Street? Is it not Elm Street?
Is it LA? Is it Elme?
Elme? Elme!
Elme. Yeah. We're heading on back to the nightmares, but the nightmares aren't quite the same because the nightmares are actually realities and scripted and
The real.
meta, as you said. It's all very.
What's meta? What's meta mean?
What is meta? What's a meta? Is it fourth wall breaking? Not really in this, but I have a comparison. But we'll talk about it more
We'll talk
when we
about it
get
later.
into it.
Yes, we will
But
do.
I have something that came to
Good.
mind watching this
Good.
time around.
Oh, happy days. Interesting. Because we haven't spoke about this, so I'm interested to hear your
No,
thoughts on it. I know you
I
love it, obviously, because we have
yeah.
sort of we briefly spoke about it in the past. I'm
Mhm.
excited to talk about Wes Craven's New Nightmare,
Yes.
but I'm also sad because we're
The-
sort of at the end.
This is it, guys, right? This is it. Unless let us know in the comments below. Do you want us to talk about Freddy versus Jason? Because that's another opportunity to talk about Elm Street and talk about Freddy.
Yes.
And
And
or
cut.
do you want us to talk about the remake, reboot, whatever the fuck that was?
Yeah.
If you want us to talk about it, if you really, really want us to talk about it, let us know in the comments below. If we hear nothing, we'll assume nobody wants to hear about it and we won't touch it. But if
Yeah.
you really, really want it, let us know down below
But
and we'll
do you
think
know
about
what? Even if you don't want it,
it.
you could leave a comment and say why you don't want us to talk about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yep,
You
you could
know?
let us know. I mean, we've already kind of said, like, if no one says they want us to, then we're probably just going to leave it. But if you really want to tell us why you think we shouldn't cover it, we're cool with that too. We're
We
cool
are
with that
cool
too.
with that.
But for now, this is kind of it. This is we've come
This is
to the
it.
end of
Mhm.
our
But
Elm Street films. Well, we've done every I was going to say every proper Elm Street film so far.
every
This will
every
be
Elm Street film in the original franchise.
yeah,
This is the
yeah,
final
exactly.
one. Even
And
though it's
do you count it as part of the? It does. It's
mm,
kind of a continuation of they make reference to the sequels and stuff, and they
yeah,
make
well
jokes about the first
it's
one being the best one. But is it really? Is it is it part of the franchise the
yeah,
way the others are part of the franchise?
no. It's part of the franchise because they talk about the films. It's just not
Mhm.
the same because it's a meta film, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would love to talk about Freddy versus Jason, so please let us know if you want us to talk about that.
I begin for that. Yeah. I haven't
The
watched. I
remake,
don't think
not
I
so
watched Freddy
much.
vs. Jason. No, not so much the remake, but Freddy vs. Jason. I'd be cool to talk about. I don't think I've watched Freddy vs. Jason since back when it was like out on DVD. It's been a
Wow.
long time, so it'd
Yeah.
be interesting to go back to and revisit it after all this time.
Mhm.
Which again, much like this, I think I watched New Nightmare around the same time that I watched Freddy vs. Jason. I kind of had a binge of all
Mm.
Freddy's content at that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and revisit after all these years, much like going back and revisit New Nightmare for this,
Um,
which I'm pumped. I'm excited to get talking
yeah,
about.
me too. When did you first see New Nightmare? Yeah.
I seen New Nightmare. I actually think I remember watching, I think maybe the first I think I remember watching the first maybe two or three films and then actually going and getting stuck into New Nightmare and then coming back for the last couple because I'd heard that New Nightmare was quite good. and that I should check it out, and that you don't necessarily need to have seen the sequels as long as you've seen at least the first one. You can kind of like, that's the thing, you can kind of go from Nightmare on Elm Street to New Nightmare without really seeing the rest of them. Yes, there's references to the sequels are there too, but there's the only real connection here is Nancy and her dad and Robert. Like there's not really much of a connection to the sequels after the first one, so you kind of can go Nightmare on Elm Street, New Nightmare. But yeah, I think I kind of sandwiched this one in the middle of watching the rest of them because I borrowed a box set off a friend when I was maybe about 14, I want to say. So yeah, and I remember at the time really enjoying it just because it was that bit more modern and had a slightly different take on Freddy. Now we'll get into that whenever we talk a bit more about this. There was some of the design options for Freddy this time around that only this time watching it I was like, what? But yeah, I remember really enjoying New Nightmare the first time around watching it, and yeah, I still, as I say, now looking at it, there's stuff I can kind of pick at it, but I still really enjoy it. What about you, man? When did you first partake of the New Nightmare?
I saw it in the cinema.
Oh,
So I was
showing your age.
Yeah, I'm showing my age big time. So I was 11 years old when this came out, and I think this was the first adult film that I saw in the cinema. I'm assuming that
what was the age rating in the?
it
Surely it was an
was,
18.
yeah, it probably was an 18.
And you snuck in as a wee
No, I
11
think
year
I
old?
got in with my sister.
Oh.
Or maybe it was because it was released in 1994, 10 years after the original. But I think in the UK it wasn't released till, UK and Ireland, it wasn't released till 95. January, February 95. So I still, no, I still would have been 11 years old, yeah.
I was 2.
You were So no, I remember, what I do remember about this film was I was super excited about a new Freddy film. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what meta meant. I didn't even know it was a meta film until I went to see it. I just remember, like, I was a big fan of the Elm Street franchise when I was younger, but only seeing it on VHS when you rented it. And I saw Freddy's Dead and didn't really like it. I remember I wasn't allowed to watch the VHS of Freddy's Dead. But I did catch it, and I was mainly just kind of obsessed with the 3D part at the end because that was all brand new to us kids back then. And we have the Freddy's Dead video, so you can go and rewatch our thoughts and all the films previously. It's in the playlist. But I just remember being so excited about this, and like I remember seeing the poster for the first time and just being like, "Oh my God, like this is Freddy Krueger. This is crazy." It would have been the State Cinema in Ballymena, and I do remember loving it. Like I didn't really understand like meta or all that meant. I just remember going in and being like, "Oh, this is real." Like, and that, as a kid, it would just blew my mind that something like this could ever be made and exist. And when they started talking about Heather Langenkamp being Heather Langenkamp and not being Nancy, it was a wee bit kind of jarring at the start. But then when they entered just Robert Englund and Wes Craven and stuff, I didn't know who Wes Craven was back then, but obviously I knew he was the guy behind the films. But it just blew my mind, and it was fucking amazing. I was a wee bit obsessed with it for a while, and I didn't really like it as much as the other films, because I didn't quite understand it. But as I've got older and sort of rewatched them, it has become one of my kind of top 3, top 4, I would say, of the entire franchise. One's always going to be the first one.
Yeah, of course.
And Dream Warriors is up there too. And then I still like 2, and I still have a wee soft spot for 4 as well. So, but New Nightmare is going to be in and around there as well. So,
yeah, I think mine's for me, it's sort of neatly sandwiched there, sort of in the middle amongst them all. Because yeah, it's definitely, I think one of the things for me that stuck as well, the box set that I borrowed off a friend at the time when I was watching them all, I think it was the box set that kind of used the New Nightmare Freddy on the cover of it as well. So it was kind of that real darker, spookier looking Freddy that was
did
on
it
the
just
cover
did
of
it
this
just have
box.
the eyes, or was it the actual
I think
full,
I think it was
that
like,
with the claw with the sort
I think
of
it was with the claw, with the like biomechanical kind of looking claw. Yeah. It was that there on, and it was like done in like red and black, just box set. So I kind of remember that image very much sticks with me when I kind of think of some of my earlier memories of Freddy. So I think this year's kind of this film for me is kind of in amongst my earliest Freddy memories, which is why it still kind of resonates with me more so when I think of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And as you say, yeah, the meta-ness of it all, the first time you watch, you're just like, wait, what? Freddy's in the real world? Freddy's part of what we live in? What? It's the bit I even love at the end, just to kind of tie all the meta-ness in together. And you were saying about like Heather Langenkamp and all, like they're credited as themselves. It just says, as themselves. And then Freddy Krueger's in the credits
That's
as
right, yeah.
himself. And you're just like, what? Freddy's real? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking great. It's lovely wee touch in the credits. I actually sat and watched through all the credits last night just because I really like that touch. And there's a fantastic touch. I know we're jumping right to the end here, but it's just a wee credits thing. But it says about, it has that note kind of at the end of the credits, which is like, events and characters in this film are not based on anybody and we can't be held liable, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was like in this, it's like some of the events in this film may be based on real events, but it's purely coincidental and also the result of an overactive 5-year-old's mind.
Yeah.
Which I thought
Yeah.
was great. They're just nice wee touches in the credits as well there, and I think that's what makes this film kind of almost quite endearing as well. Is those wee sort of, I think this very much is like Wes Craven's little like love child to his own
Yeah.
creation. It's a love letter to his own creation, which I think is brilliant. And so many other or directors have tried to do before, and it tends to seem a bit kind of like they're sucking their own dick. But Wes Craven's done it really well, and it's probably one of the first instances where we get that. Whereas you get the likes of, I don't know, like Kevin Smith with Jay and Silent Bob Get Old. That was kind of him trying to do a send up to all his other Jay and Silent Bob stuff that had come before. And it was just a bit like, we get it.
Meh.
We get what it is you do. I love Kevin Smith. Wasn't a fan of that just because it felt too, it again tried to be meta and it tried to be like, look at all the stuff I've done. Whereas New Nightmare does it really well. And Wes Craven being a part of that is brilliant.
Yeah.
I love when he has his wee moments in the film as well. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely it's kind of his love letter to his child, I suppose, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street 84. I don't know. I don't know if he ever came out and said what his favorite film that he ever made was. I'm sure he did at some point, and maybe the answers were different in different interviews that he did. But I feel like this is his little baby, because obviously he did Scream, the year after this, 95, which, was one of the biggest horrors of all time. It started the franchise, it created Ghostface, it just spawned this whole new generation of slashers and kind of horror films that came after it.
He knew how to kickstart a franchise.
He did.
Didn't
He did. I mean,
absolutely knew how to kickstart a
for
franchise.
somebody who didn't want a franchise, he didn't want sequels to Nightmare on Elm Street, and this was his sequel. Yes, he was involved with Dream Warriors and stuff, but the original idea for Dream Warriors was similar to what actually happened in this. He wanted it to be a bit more meta in Dream Warriors, and I think New Line kind of turned him around and said, no, it needs to be a bit more like this, and he, kind of did what they asked. But he used a lot of the ideas that he had back there in this new Nightmare film. But yeah, fantastic film, really love it. It premiered originally. It did premiere at the Fantasy Film Fest in Germany in August of '94, and then it got another screening at TIFF in Canada later that year in '94, and then it debuted in the US in October of '94, and I think it hit our shores in January or February of '95. It actually did really bad at the box. Well, it didn't do bad. The budget was 8 million, and it made about 20, just shy of 20 million, which is pretty good. But it is
yeah,
shocking to learn that it's the worst performing film of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because
it's kind of ironic given that, like in the film they're still kind of in the midst of like Freddy Mania.
Yeah.
So, a film that's kind of making commentary about Freddy Mania and how everybody knows Freddy, even kids know Freddy,
Hmm.
underperforms. I think there's a slight irony there.
Yeah, he's like Santa Claus
Yeah.
or King Kong, he's this sort of
That,
bigger.
that line, I was like, Santa Claus,
I
King
know.
Kong. Why?
Why? Yeah,
Really
exactly.
random things. Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, he's bigger than life, really, I suppose. And I
Mhm.
think that's obviously that's where the franchise took him to, and that was Wes Craven's way of kind of saying, you know, don't get me wrong, like I like that he's probably a big character. I'm sure he got some sort of residuals from creating the character, but like he didn't want the franchise to go down that route, and this was his way of kind of course correcting it and having his say on, how he wanted this character to end.
Mhm.
Although we know he doesn't end, we have Freddy versus Jason to come as
Mhm.
well. So it was just really great to see, Heather Langenkamp come back. Robert Englund obviously never left really. So, and then also to see John Saxon back and Wes Craven himself.
Mhm.
Um, Robert Englund plays himself in it. He has a couple of scenes as himself, and obviously he returns as Freddy Krueger. Now, it's interesting to note that Freddy Krueger in this isn't really Freddy Krueger. He's a supernatural sort of entity that
A
takes the
dream.
form
He's a
takes
dream
the
demon.
form of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Because
Um,
we get a wee glimpse. Spoilers. We get a glimpse of its true self at the very end,
yeah,
whenever
oh,
he's
amazing.
being set alight in the boiler.
Yeah,
Or is it a boiler, or is it? It looks more like a crematorium sort of. You know.
yeah. There's definitely like a big furnace, isn't there? And
Uh,
there's tunnels and stuff, so it's bigger than a boiler room.
yeah.
Um,
It's
it's like
real.
a, it's like a, it's like a
It's like
labyrinth.
yeah. Well,
Oh, oh! Did
the
I make a connection?
made a connection with my comparison. You done did made a connection with my comparison.
It's now
We'll
the
talk more
time, or
about it
we'll
in a
talk about
bit,
it
but
later.
we'll
Talk
talk
about it
about it
later.
in a bit. But that was a big old drop right there.
I actually didn't
Um,
know. I didn't know that,
yeah,
but
you didn't
I
know that I was going to be mentioning this,
great
but
minds,
yes,
Danny. I was
uh-huh,
thinking something similar.
uh-huh.
But so the film was released 10 years after the original. It focuses on Heather Langenkamp, who obviously played Nancy, the original final girl, who was killed off in Dream Warriors,
Mhm.
very sadly. Um, she is she has been asked to return to the franchise to reprise her role in some form.
Mhm.
Um, Bob Shaye's in this as well, actually, isn't he?
Yep.
He makes an appearance, but she's been asked to return, and her husband in the film is working on a new film in the franchise, and
Well,
what
that's the thing because I love the opening to this film. I
yeah, the
love
opening.
that the opening is basically it's like almost a shot for shot remake of the opening to the first film
Hmm.
with the making of the glove, but it's slightly different
Hmm.
because the glove is like a robotic animatronic Freddy glove, which automatically is just like, what the fuck, like sci-fi Freddy? What the fuck's going on? What's this about? So I love that, and I love the way like it's like glitching and coming to life, and he like strokes it, and it like closes up around his hand and stuff. I think that's fantastic. You know what really threw me off though, because I only noticed it watching it this time around is it's not a jumper. He's wearing a sweatshirt. What's that about? Freddy
He
sweatshirt?
is,
Freddy
yeah.
sweatshirt? Do we want Freddy sweatshirts? Do you think we
Why
should
not?
get some Freddy sweatshirts?
You have to update your wardrobe, man.
Maybe I need a Freddy sweatshirt. But yes, Freddy sweatshirt, and then he cuts his own hand off, and blood spurts out, and then the camera pulls back, and we see they're actually they're filming on a set, and it's prosthetic guys are squirting blood out of the wound, and you can see that it's a radio controlled claw, which starts going buck mad. Gaff starts
Oh,
going buck
fuck
mad
man.
and cutting folk and all.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, so we get that. We get that Wes Craven is now actually filming a new Nightmare on Elm Street, and Nancy's on the set, and it kind of starts with this implication that they're making a new Nightmare on Elm Street, but Nancy's a bit edgy about it. She's not something's not right. She doesn't like that glove.
She doesn't really want to be a part of it. Uh,
Mhm.
but the point I was trying to make was that this film is loosely based on certain things that did happen in real life. So her husband, uh, Heather's husband in real life, works in the industry, and they both have their own special effects uh, business, and they work in horror films and science fiction films and stuff, which was fun. And also, a big part of this film in the beginning, anyway, is the fact that she has a stalker,
Mhm.
which she did have in real life. Heather Langenkamp had a stalker in real life, and that was put into the script, or that kind of kicked off the script, even though the idea was there. I think Heather mentioned it to Wes Craven one day that she was getting phone calls and stuff, and he started to connect the dots, and it helped him form this idea for the script.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a fun little thing that he added in. But obviously, the main part of it surrounds, the fandom of Freddy Krueger, which we briefly spoke about, the fandom of celebrities in general and paparazzi and how they're hounded and they don't really have a private life. And I liked how they sort of touched on this in the film as well.
Mhm.
Um, but a lot of the film revolves around Heather's son in the movie, who isn't a real son, obviously, but her son Dylan, who's played by Miko Hughes, who you would know from the likes of Pet Cemetery and Kindergarten Cop. He was in as well.
Yep.
He was the wee boy in Kindergarten, wasn't he? He was in that, wasn't he?
Who's your daddy? What does
He
he
was.
do?
He was definitely in that. He was, yeah.
Pretty sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but he played Gage in Pet Cemetery, so which is his most famous role to date up until this point. And interestingly enough, Danny, I'm not
Mhm.
sure if you are aware of this, but he acted in a sequel to New Nightmare, which is coming out later
What?
this year. Yeah, it's a fan film.
Oh, okay.
It's called Dylan's New Nightmare. The trailer is available on
Right.
YouTube. We'll maybe put the trailer actually in the description below. Um, but
And
it
how?
is it's very much a fan film, but it's about him being older, and general gist of the film is that he's seeing a therapist because he's having nightmares and
Does he still have his T-Rex study?
wee dinosaur. I don't know. I would be surprised if it
I
doesn't show
hope
up at
so.
some point.
He
I
was in Kindergarten Cop. I
He
just double
wasn't.
checked.
Yes, I knew
Yeah, he
I knew
definitely
he
was.
was anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it revolves around the kid and the relationship between the kid and Heather, and then obviously this brings Heather deeper into the nightmare that is unfolding in real life.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Mhm.
So I wanted to just touch a little bit on the fact one of the facts we spoke about with the box office. It
Mhm.
made about 20 million, but it was said it was one of the poorest, or was actually the poorest film performance-wise at the box office in the franchise. I think partly the reason for that was it was 1994. Horror wasn't really a big genre in cinema at that point.
Mhm.
Obviously, the year after, when Scream was released, it really sort of kicked off and
Yeah.
rejuvenated the horror franchise. But I think, or the horror
Would you
genre, I should
say
say.
that this film this was kind of Wes's first dabbling in
Like
that kind of meta cinema? Do you
I,
think this is what
yeah,
kind of
I think this
kick-started
was
the interest in that
this was
kind of
definitely a
idea of
pre
meta horror and
yeah, it was definitely a precursor to Scream. It's more meta than Scream is
hmm
in terms of this is literally about real life characters. Whereas Scream's more of just a commentary on the genre in general,
yeah.
and Scream's a wee bit more fun and sort of wee bit more tongue in cheek, whereas this is kind of a little bit more serious.
Oh, it gets quite dark. Yep.
Yeah, it's
hmm
very dark towards the end, but I think that when this was released, Pulp Fiction was also in the cinema when this was released,
mm
and there was a few other bigger films in the cinema, so um, maybe just the audience wasn't there for it, but
Yeah.
it did, I would say it's sort of become one of the most loved
Yeah.
of the franchise outside of the original film and probably Dream Warriors. I would say this comes in at number three on a lot of people's lists.
hmm
And if you want to write your list in
Yeah,
the
let us
comments at
know.
any point there, please do. We'd love to read your
We'll
lists
when this
and
video
compare them.
drops, we'll put ours on Twitter.
We will.
What do you say, Gav? Will we put
We
ours on Twitter?
absolutely
Let's
we
put
will.
ours on Twitter. Yep.
But it did receive a lot of positive reviews, which obviously was good for it.
Mhm.
And I mean, it definitely is one of the best written of the films. I think the screenplay won a couple of awards at some smaller festivals and award ceremonies, which is great to see because Wes Craven didn't win too many awards throughout his career, which was,
Mhm.
kind of a shame because I think he
A
was
shame, yeah.
definitely you know, uh, such an intelligent writer as well, but a great thinker and a great mind. We spoke briefly about how Wes did this film because he was a bit sort of disheartened by how the franchise went, the direction of the character. One thing I will say about this film is there's very little humor in it.
Yeah,
It-
very,
There's a
very little.
there's a couple of little tongue-in-cheek nods,
There's a
if you
bit, yeah. It's I think towards there's the bit whenever Freddy's really kind of starting to kick in, and you get a couple of wee nice sort of callbacks, which are I think funny for fans. I think if you were
homage.
had you not, yeah, have you not had you not seen any of the other Nightmare on Elm Street films before, like you wouldn't get it, and you'd probably be a bit like, what the fuck?
Mm,
But if you've seen Nightmare on Elm Street and any of the ones after, you'll be a bit like, okay, I
yeah,
appreciate that. That's
yeah.
good. It's a nice nod. But yeah, it's definitely not got the same. It probably is going back to that original Freddy of
Hmm.
just being like real fucking freaky deaky. Like even whenever Robert England comes in playing Freddy,
Hmm.
he's more playing, I would say, like Freddy from Freddy 1 and Freddy 2 than he is from any of the other films. I love that shot when they're in he's just come out and he's walking amongst the crowd and he's high-fiving them and all. And then you've got the studio light on
Hmm.
him, like
Hmm.
flashing onto the front of him. And it's just like his silhouette, and it's doing the fucking shot from Freddy 2 or Nightmare on
Hmm.
Elm Street 2 when he's like, "You're all my children now," and he's waving his arms and the claws, and he kind of just looks back at Nancy at Heather, and it's just like, fuck, like that's a fucking again, what a throwback to Nightmare on Elm Street 2.
Hmm.
And just yeah, I think that's one of the scenes I remember from watching it before, and then watching it again this time. I was like, that's still a fucking what a moment. And again,
Yeah.
that's not even the real Freddy. That's Robert England pretending to be Freddy
Hmm.
as Robert England in the film where he's playing himself as Robert England, but as Freddy in that moment.
Hmm. He remade that
Robert,
moment.
yeah, I was getting myself in a wee look there,
Yeah.
wee Robert England Freddy look. But yeah, what a fucking that there for me. I know we're going to probably mention more favorite moments, but I need to like mention that one there and then because I was like, oh my god, this so
Yeah, it
good.
was definitely one of the nicest looking scenes in the film. Um, as soon as you said it, I was like, yes, I know exactly the shot. The silhouette, almost like the silhouette of his, him holding his arms out and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
beautiful shot. What other shot? I mean, there is some nice shots in here. I would say that. I mean, the end sequences are brilliant. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to go too far ahead and talk about the end sequence just yet, but there's loads of cool shots and just
There's
lovely
some really, really good shots. There's some
practical
lovely.
effects as well, obviously.
The practical effects are fantastic. The digital effects, not so much.
Eh,
Um,
I like them.
there's
I like them.
some of the fiery stuff in this. There's a bit that fucking killed me that absolutely cracked me up, but it was only because it was so fucking random. And it's whenever I know we said we are going to talk about the end, but I need to, well, it's in my mind. I need to
Just
talk
go
about
ahead,
it.
I talk
It's
about it.
whenever it's like a above camera shot of like Freddy's realm of like the dream realm, and the camera's like coming
Yeah,
down from the sky into the realm, and there's just a random fucking pterodactyl flies by. And that
that's
just,
right.
I don't know why, but it was just this one wee pterodactyl flying by, just fucking killed me.
He
I
was
could
maybe on the
nothing.
set of fucking
It's
The Lost World or something.
maybe
Were
that's
they
just
filming
a wee pterodactyl.
94? I don't know. Aye, so he just escaped. He escaped the set at
Just
Universal.
fluttering by. Hmm.
I know it was a bit random, but I mean, I don't know, man. I just love that whole sequence at the end. There's a couple of wee things that could be improved a little bit. I think we briefly spoke about that we love Freddy when he's a bit darker, more dangerous. I fucking am obsessed with him wearing the trench coat.
Fuck, I love the trench coat is class.
Uh-huh.
The green fedora,
It's
wasn't a fan
okay.
of the green fedora. I prefer the brown fedora. Green fedoras are,
Well,
but you
it's
know what?
still
Fucking
dark though.
still dark, still a dark green. But
Slightly
again,
different tinge.
it's a bit more Christmassy. It kind of makes him
Yeah.
look more
Oh
Christmassy
yeah,
than
yeah, of course.
the Christmas jumper already did. You know what? Fucking again, kind of killed me a bit though. Was his fucking big goth platform boots.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
It's fucking good. You see, you really, whenever he falls into the furnace thing, you really get some like nice shots of those platform goth boots. I fucking, they were
I
making me chuckle
fucking
like.
I just love the trench coat, man. I think it just adds so much to his character.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I think Wes Craven wanted him to wear a trench coat in the original
Hmm.
as part of his costume. I'm sure I've read that somewhere. I'm sure Wes has said that. So you briefly spoke about the claw. You know,
Hmm.
obviously there's the mechanical claw at the start.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad they didn't really go down that route so
They didn't
much.
give him like a robot claw the whole time.
Yeah,
There is, I think
I
there is mechanical elements to this
yeah,
one, but
like I'm
yeah.
glad they didn't go Freddy X.
Yeah.
So, but the claw that he has, or that you see later, that's his actual claw, and even we could talk about the makeup a little bit. It is very
Hmm.
different to any of the Freddy makeups in any of the films before.
Yeah.
Um, in that it looks more like you can sort of see there's bone there, and you can sort of
There's
see
bone and
sinew and
muscle
muscle
and
and stuff.
yeah,
It's like Attack on Titan,
yeah, yeah,
sort of
exactly. That's
similar to
actually.
what that is.
Hmm.
So I think it's cool looking,
Hmm.
and it is different, and he's got the different lenses in his eyes as well.
Hmm.
I still prefer like the OG first and second, the real dark Bernie thing
Yeah.
that's going on there. But I suppose you do see a bit more Robert England as well,
Mhm.
and he's able to perform better with it. But what do you think overall of the sort of design and makeup?
I do like that. As I say, the boots gave me a giggle. The dark green hat wasn't really to my liking. Love the trench coat. Love that he doesn't stick with the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt's just for like the filming part at the start. He does get his jumper back, which again seems to be a slightly darker red and green than we've maybe seen on him before. I really like the glove design. His hand, even this one, it's not even
Hmm.
a glove. It's
Yeah,
basically like the blades are incorporated into his hand, and it's
part of
sort of
him rather
yeah,
than something that he
it's
wears.
sort of bio. Again, there's a biomechanical thing there, but it's still quite fleshy, and there's like bits of tendon and skin showing through. So yeah, I think the Freddy's great in this, and as I say, a lot of those kind of promo shots and stuff, and you said about the IE promo shot, are just far more sinister and dark, and have stuck with me all this time. Um, yeah, I really like it. It was just I think towards the end there is the one shot in the furnace whenever it's the transition from like Freddy to the demon to then exploding. And there's a bit where it's like a close up shot in his eyes, but because of how the scene is lit, like the scar makeup around his
Hmm.
eyes kind of make like his eyeballs look like they're in buttholes. But that was just that that was just the one bit where I was kind of like,
Beat
that's a
chocolate starfish.
little fucking eyeball set in a butthole. But yeah, no, I think the Freddy design in this one's fucking great. And again, it's a nice rather than trying to do the same thing but slightly different, they've changed up enough that we could be like, that's Freddy, but it's not our
Yeah.
Freddy because it's not meant to be our Freddy. It's a different dream demon altogether, you know.
Yeah, I think it would have been very easy just to do, oh, let's do the first Freddy.
Mhm.
But it's not actually Freddy Krueger.
Yeah,
It's just he's just taking the form of Freddy. But he's
exactly. We do get that Freddy though. We do
yeah,
get first Freddy in Robert Englund's
yeah, we do.
appearances Freddy. So we still get a wee taste of like the original like Coca-Cola flavor,
Hmm.
but then we're getting Coke Zero in the New Nightmare Freddy.
Are you saying that Coke Zero's what are you saying there? Is that an
I
analogy
don't
that
know.
are you having a commentary on Coke?
Trying to yeah, like you can't really beat the original taste of Coca-Cola, but
Nah, you can't.
sometimes it's good to go with a little Coke
Good to
Zero
go
from time
zero.
to time.
Occasionally. Yeah,
But
yeah.
don't drink Diet Coke because
Oh
it's
Jesus.
just
That's like
fizzy.
Freddy's dead of Coke.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If we're gonna start using Coke analogies, let's go with that. And Dream Warriors is cherry Coke.
Oh,
Mm.
okay, interesting, interesting. Um, so you know, we've kind of touched on the plot there, but we'll go through some sort of kind of story thread that basically Heather's not happy. Her husband has an accident, shall we
Hmm.
say? But she dreams that he is killed by Freddy.
Yeah.
Um, and he has a car accident, and then her son starts having nightmares, and then they find out that, obviously this entity, I keep calling it the supernatural entity, is resurfacing. Um,
Hmm.
and then I think the moment that turns the kind of film around is when she goes to visit Wes
Hmm.
Craven, and we get that scene where he's writing the script, and you find out that he is actually writing the script, and the film's playing out as he's
Hmm.
writing it,
Yep.
which was a very weird thing to watch when you were a kid. You were like, "What is going on?"
Hmm.
But it was pretty clever, and I don't remember it ever being in another film. Like it was very very original. Maybe it
Yeah.
did something like that did happen in a film before. I
It's called The Never Ending Story, Gav. Before that, though, whenever she calls, so her and Robert England obviously meet whenever whenever she's being interviewed in a chat show, and they're kind of chatting. They're saying, "Oh, there's word that the Elm Street movies could be coming back. What do you have to say about that? How would you feel about working with Robert again?" And it's all good fun, and everybody's going buck mad because Freddy Mania. But then she calls him later to ask if he's been having nightmares as well. And Robert's kind of like, "Oh well, no, just I've been working on stuff." And then she's like, "Well, do you want to meet up and we can chat about it?" And he's like, "Oh no, I've got to finish something today, but we can meet tomorrow." And then whenever he hangs up and he pulls back, and you've got the painting, you've got Robert Englund's painting of Freddy. Which I watched it this time, I was like, I wonder did he actually do that? I wonder did Robert Englund actually paint that we painting of Freddy?
Hmm.
I would love to know. But
I
I
wonder I
love,
wonder where it is at.
yeah, where is that painting? Because it's a great painting. But I think what I really love about this is that it allows all these actors to kind of have a turn at, like, not like, yes, they're in a horror, but they're not necessarily acting like they're in a horror. They're just
Mm,
acting like they're in real life. And I think that's what's really nice about Robert Englund, because we both met him, and I kind of feel like the way he gets on with Heather is probably how he does genuinely get on with people in real life.
hmm
I got that air about him, and I think it allows him getting to play himself, and then him getting to play himself as Freddy, and then him also then playing a darker demonic Freddy. Like, he got to show so much range,
hmm
which I thought was fucking brilliant. I really
Yeah.
enjoy all the performances in this, and I even enjoy, I enjoy his name's gone out of my head. There's times where it's a bit like, that's Wayne acting. But it's the wee moments where he kind of turns, he's kind of being a little sinister kid, and then he kind of flops and he's,
Mm,
he's fitting or whatever. I think my favorite moments when he's got the fucking kitchen knives like taped to his hands,
that's right. Yeah.
going for his ma. But yeah, I think everybody kind of gets to have a good turn in this.
Yeah. No, they definitely do. And then we get a couple other good performances. Like, have to shout out to the nurse.
Hmm.
Uh, she's a wee bit over the top, like, but she's funny. And then obviously one of the other main characters in the film is Julie, the babysitter,
Yep.
who dies in a very tragic
That
way.
that bit, the way she, whenever, so she's trying to protect, what is the wee, his name's going in my head,
Oh, Dylan is his name.
Dylan. I was going to say Darren. It's not Darren. Dylan.
Yeah.
Whenever she's trying to protect Dylan in the hospital from the nurses, but then Freddie gets her. Freddie
Mm.
ends up like killing her, basically the way that the girlfriend gets killed in the first film. The one of
Oh,
the first.
Amanda.
Aye, Amanda.
Amanda
Wait,
was
Amanda. Away, the way
still one of
Amanda
the
gets
best kills,
whacked.
and
Oh, so good. But
yeah.
yeah, trails are, along the ground up onto the roof. And it's that bit whenever um whenever she's on the roof, but Freddy's like standing off the roof
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of like bent in, but he's as the way his like head is turned. I was fucking again. That was another fucking great moment where just like the shape, like he's almost at like a right angle, and then his head's just like turned looking, and I was like, that's a fucking great, just lovely shot. Her stuck up there, him right angled, just the wee head turn.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, fucking, that's a fucking. Mwah.
I know that whole sequence is great. I love it. There's a great shot where he just appears from behind, and he does the it's just the fedora and the trench coat's lovely shot.
Mhm.
But she did, yeah. Obviously, that's an homage to Tina dying in the very first one, which was
Yep.
technically his first kill on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Still, as I said, still one of the best kills, I think, and one of the most gruesome kills, and one of the most memorable kills in all of horror. So I'm glad that they did a bit of an homage to that.
A little note. A little
Yeah,
note.
they sort of teased that maybe Julie was going to be, maybe be a part of it or something, or I think in the original script there even may have been more of that where she may have been somehow part of the demon, or Freddy was part of her or something like that. I remember reading something about that, but yeah, they obviously decided, nah, she's dead. She's
She's
dead, mate.
okay. She's a good one, but she'll
She's
die.
good, but she'll
She's
die.
uh-huh. You know what this film had a lot of that we love? You know what this film had a lot of that we are big fans of?
Oh,
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 lovely
blue
blue
hue.
a lot of lovely blue
It
hues in this
is, yes,
movie.
particularly when you see him.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the scene where under the sheets and he rips through the sheets?
Yeah.
And it's lovely blue, and you see his face, and
It's when he comes up out of the sheet and it's just wee head, but it's like proper like wrapped
uh,
around his head and he's just got a wee hole with his face poking out. I was like, you're kind of cute. You're
where's
kind
we,
of cute,
where's we
Freddy.
butthole eyes?
Yeah, with a little butthole eyes winking at you. It's the bit whenever it's like nighttime in the house and he's in the like he's like in the larder. She like opens the door and there's like
Mm.
nothing there, and then we get a bit of a Freddy jump scare. That bit is fucking great too, and some lovely blue hues over that there as well.
Aye. Because that's if you go back to the original one as well, you get the alleyway scene where
Mm-hmm.
the alarms start growing. That's got a lovely blue hue,
It's the
which
bluest of
we've
hues.
spoke about before. So I feel like it's again an
Harkening
homage
back. Yes, harkening
to
back.
that.
Yeah.
But kind of touched on a few scenes there, and what out of the whole film, what would maybe be your kind of favorite scenes?
I think a few of my favorites, the definitely whenever Freddy comes out, Robert Englund Freddy comes out to the TV studio, and we get the studio light silhouetting him, and he's waving his arms, and you're my children now. That fucking scene's great. I love. There's a lot of really nice sort of like close-ups, really sinister close-ups on New Nightmare Freddy's face, which I think are fantastic. Again, even the way they're lit and stuff, and just real sinister. He's always seems to be sort of like just in the shadows up
Hmm.
until the kind of final act, and then when he's out, and he's going to get you. I really like the callback to the phone scene. Whenever Nancy,
Oh
well,
yeah, of course. How could
Heather
we?
Nancy picks up the phone, and we get the phone scene again. So
Better.
that's fucking fantastic. Yeah, there's so much. But I think what I really like about this, and it's time for Danny's comparison. I really liked because I'm a massive fan of Labyrinth, of Jim Henson's Labyrinth.
Hmm.
I found that there was
Love a bit of
quite a lot.
Jen Henson. There's a
We love
Hobbit's
Jim
t-shirt.
Henson here.
Yep.
We're big Jim Henson fans. I found that the story was kind of it was a bit like Labyrinth in that Sarah has to go to the Goblin Kingdom and she almost has to play her part in order to actually defeat the Goblin King and get her brother back. And
Hmm.
in this, Heather has to play her part, be Nancy, in order to get her son back. And I
Yeah.
found, that those comparisons. And as you say, even though at the end, whenever they go to the Dream Demon's realm, and you said it was Labyrinth, like, And it was, there was kind of the whole kind of running around the kind of gothic boiler room was very reminiscent, I thought, of like Sarah's chase around the Goblin Castle. I was drawing a lot of comparisons there, and that actually made me like it even more because I was able to draw those comparisons because I fucking love Labyrinth. So in turn, I really enjoyed this
Yeah,
as well
there's
for it.
there's definitely like a very much a fairy tale
Mhm.
aspect to the storytelling on this, and as you say, she has to play her part to save her son. Um, yeah, I kind of had a vague idea of that as well, and I said
Mhm.
we didn't even speak about it beforehand, so
Nope.
you
What
know,
a coinkydink.
fucking connected, man. Our brains are connected. But another scene that we haven't spoke about, that we need to speak about is the traffic scene,
Oh
the,
fuck.
the highway scene, which is
Yeah.
probably one of the most memorable big scenes in the film.
Hmm.
It's when Dylan is trying to cross uh, the
It's quite
highway.
intense.
It's
Yeah.
a big fucking highway, man. It's like
Hmm.
6 or 10 lanes or whatever.
Load of lanes. Whole load of lanes.
There's a whole load of lanes. And Freddy he's in sky, isn't he? You see him in the
Mhm.
sky and in the clouds and stuff. And that was a bit of a throwback to Dream Warriors whenever he's the puppet master and you know, he's bringing, the guy out to the end of
The
the
marionette
balcony,
puppet. Yep.
the marionette puppet, and he brings him right out, and then he cuts the strings, the invisible strings, and he falls to his death. So that
Hmm.
was again, it was different enough, but it was kind of a throwback to that, and I love that scene. It is very intense,
Hmm.
um, and I think Miko's great in that sequence. But I just love that, Freddy's in the sky. I just love that
Yeah.
image that he's looking down and he's sort of controlling. He's the puppet master and he's controlling all these characters that he actually owns almost.
Yeah.
I love the symbolism in it. So,
Nice.
uh, and then obviously that we spoke about Julie's scene. That
Hmm.
whole sequence in the hospital is fantastic as well. And
Yeah. What about the fucking her husband's funeral? There's like earthquakes. So actually, even before that, we haven't
yeah,
even touched on the fact that there's some random like fault line going through
yeah,
LA that's causing all these earthquakes, and that's what at the start of the film, that's what wakes Nancy out of her dream. The start of the film, we think they're filming a new Nightmare on Elm Street film, but it turns out it was actually just a dream, and Nancy's been woke up out of that dream by an earthquake, and the house cracks, and
hmm
there's these four big cracks appear in the wall of her house, which again I was like, ooh, fucking way to fucking, it's just an earthquake, or is it? So that was great. And then at her husband's funeral, so after her husband's killed by Freddy slash dies in a car crash,
hmm
she ends up there's an earthquake and she falls forward and hits her head on like the bars going around the side of the grave, and his coffin like falls down into it.
hmm
And whenever she looks around, Dylan's gone, but whenever she looks down into the grave, Dylan's being like pulled into the grave by Freddy, and she goes like down in after him, and like the inside of the coffin is just like an endless tunnel of
hmm
satin. And she has to pull Dylan back up, and as she pulls Dylan back up and she's lying there with him in the grave, her husband comes to life and starts fucking crying blood and
hmm
be like, "Be with me in death." It was fucking nuts.
Yeah, that seemed a wee bit random.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, it was a wee bit random. I mean, it was kind of one of those scenes where like every horror film has those kind of scenes where it's like, oh, we just need like a dramatic action scary scene here.
We need to freak everyone
What can we do? Yeah, we need to freak
out at a
somebody out.
funeral. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yep. I
I
love
do.
it. I think there's that bit whenever whenever she kind of comes to, and it's her, the actor who plays her dad in the first film. His name has gone out of my
John
head.
Saxon.
John Saxon. Whenever he kind of comes over to like, he's like, "Oh, you hit your head pretty hard there," and like is dabbing her head, and he's like, "Are you all right? Dylan's over there." And the wee grannies are like reaching for him to like pat him to be like, "You okay?"
Hmm,
And then Wes Craven just kind of walks into frame and like looks up at a tree
I know.
like that, but it's because he knows there's something spooky
He
going on.
does.
He
He
knows
does.
he's got that knowing look of a man who knows there's something
It's
spooky going on,
because
but he's got to look at a tree just to
he
confirm it.
he's fucking right the script as it's happening. So he's
That's
like,
true. Wes Craven
Wes Craven
stares
looks
at
at
a
the tree.
tree.
It's like that scene from Family Guy. Uh, Randy Newman Maybe you don't know this when
Was
he's
a bug.
aye,
Was a
takes a
was
bite from the
from the
apple.
apple. That
Does it?
shit.
Takes another bite from the apple. He
Yeah.
just writes what he writes what he
That's
sees.
what it's doing. Yeah.
Um. So yeah,
Wes Craven walks up to a tree.
looks up to the sky. So yeah, didn't think I'd be comparing Wes Craven to Randy Newman today,
Randy
but there you
Newman.
go.
There we go.
Uh, no, but I think like, we need to talk about that last sequence because it's fucking phenomenal. We have spoken
Hmm.
about it briefly, but I think it's very much I mentioned the word fairy tale because you know Freddy's trying to get Dylan, and then he tries to fucking eat him, and
Hmm.
we get that
Oh
scene where it's just his
God.
mouth opens out and his chin elongates, and it's fucking
It was giving
terrifying, man.
me it was giving me Army of Darkness energy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Sort of,
Mm.
yeah, when it's yeah, right,
When
yeah.
Ash does the big stretchy face. But yeah, that there because he just kind of stretches it, but then it cuts to Nancy, and when it cuts back, it's like you can see like all Freddy's teeth and everything are just like
hmm
shuddering in this big,
hmm
wide gaping mouth. Yeah, wild,
Love
so
it, man.
wild. And then we get the big stretchy tongue again.
I
We
know.
get Freddy and his long ass tongue
He loves a bit of
wrapping
long
around.
tongue. Like,
He loves a big long serpentine tongue, doesn't he? Whenever the her and Saxon are walking out of the house, but Saxon's like, "Why do you keep calling me that?" He's like, Nancy, you've got to go back
hmm
inside. I was
hmm
like, fuck,
Yeah, it's great.
this is the turning
So
point.
good,
That
man.
was so good. And then she turns around and she's back on Elm Street.
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck yes. Oh
Yes! Oh
yeah.
God, it's so
Oh
good, man.
moment.
It's
Mhm.
a great end sequence, and
Mhm.
I think I mean, I do love the film. I'd love it. I'd love him to make. Oh, well, obviously he can't. He's sadly passed away, but
Mhm.
I'd like a few more of those wee sort of like. Well, there was plenty of surreal moments in the film, but that moment where she walks out and you're back on Elm Street and he's her dad now.
Mhm.
It's just great, and she's back to being Nancy. I would have liked a few more wee bits of that, maybe just dot it through the beginning of the film as well. But going
Yeah.
back to the earthquakes real quickly, um, there were earthquakes in
Mhm.
LA at that point, and apparently that was kind of written into the script because.
I think there's a lot of wee commentaries and like wee notes to things that were going on at the time. I
Mhm,
think one of my favorite kind of wee commentary pieces in this is the part whenever Heather is interacting with the nurse and the nurse kind of says, have you let him watch your movies? And
mhm,
I think there is almost like that kind of judgment on actors who are in like horror movies and action movies, are they're almost judged when they become parents because it's like, well, how can you expect to look after a child when you act in
yeah.
something like that
No,
there?
you're a
Do you
horror
let
movie actor, like,
Yeah, exactly. How are you letting your child see your work because
yeah.
that's not appropriate? I feel like that probably is a judgment that Heather has had to probably deal with in real life. And I really like that whenever, you know, it's very obvious Heather's stressing about the situation she's in and she's being judged as a parent because she was in horror films.
hmm
I thought that was really good, like quite a mature sort of point to make
hmm
in the film, which obviously then allows actually for the action to kind of progress in a way that seems quite natural, and that child services need to get involved, the police need to get involved because this child is sleep deprived. And it's like, well, no, actually, there's a fucking dream demon at work here, but no one's going to believe
hmm
that,
hmm
because this woman's been in a load of spooky movies about a dream
Yeah.
demon. Coinkadinkly.
Clearly it's the fact that she was in horror movies that is messing up
Mhm.
her kid. Like, could not be any other,
Dead
explanation behind
husband.
it. I know,
Which
exactly.
again, that's
Which
the
they,
thing.
they
She's
sort of
like,
forget about the husband really
yeah,
quickly,
she
don't they?
says, "Oh, his father's just died," and she's like, "Oh, yep, that'll probably do it." But what about you being in them
I
horror movies, huh?
know. Definitely your fault.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I also think like the earthquakes, if you look kind of a bit more deeper into it, the earthquakes could be kind of a metaphor for her reality and the cracks in her reality. That's kind of starting to form a little bit at the start of the movie. And yes, of
Yes.
course, the slashes, yeah, which were, a good metaphor as well. But
Mhm.
no, love the movie. I just think, man, oh damn, we really need another Elm Street movie, don't we?
I would love another Elm Street movie, but I don't want a remake or anything. I don't know what I want, but I want something really good. But I can't think like what would be
I
a
know what I
good
want.
kind of legacy Elm Street movie.
I
What
know.
could we do with Elm Street now?
I think we could do something. I have an idea I've been working
Okay.
on. I've mentioned it a few times. I've written
Mhm.
some things. Um, uh, they'll definitely make an Elm Street movie before I finish the script, though. So, but I really should get onto it just in case there's any similarities and people,
And then you could be
and
like,
then I can copyright it and be like, hey, you know,
look at this,
give
check
me
this out.
something. But
Yeah.
no, I think we are due a new Elm Street film. It's one of the bigger franchises in the horror genre that hasn't been touched in so long. We had a Hellraiser film, we had the
Mm-hmm.
Friday the 13th remake, we've had
We've
uh
had Scream.
we've
We've
had
had more
Scream,
Scrums.
yeah.
Yep.
We've got Exorcist
We've
coming
had
this
Texas
year.
Chainsaw.
Texas
You
Chainsaw,
know.
yeah, we've had all these sort of legacy sequels. Halloween is another one. I think
Hmm.
Elm Street needs a legacy
I
sequel.
think it's time
Just a
for
one-off though. It doesn't need to be a
no.
fucking
We don't need
trilogy,
loads of them. We don't. Yeah,
you
we
know.
just need. Do you think
And
Robert Englund will come back to
I
do it?
think you could do it with Robert England.
I think
Obviously,
yeah, Robert Englund back. Yep.
um, uh, the physicality and stuff. If he needs to be physical, you could get somebody to come in and do that. But
Yeah.
I, there's ideas there that you could play around with, where you could
Oh,
potentially
100%.
introduce a new version of Freddy that you could have Robert and somebody else do it. So
Mm.
I don't want to say any more, but there's plenty of ideas out there. So hopefully a good studio will get on it. I know that Spectre Vision, I think, bought the rights for somebody. I know Blumhouse were trying to do something as well. They
Mm.
tried to get the rights, but there's been a lot of kind of like rights issues and who owns what and stuff. So, but it'll be interesting to see where the franchise goes. I
Oh,
do feel
100%.
like within the next year to 2 years we'll get something. Something will be announced.
Yeah.
And I really hope that Robert Englund's involved somehow.
Oh, he has to be. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't. There's nobody else I could think of that would bring that personality to it.
no.
There's nobody comes to mind.
Well,
Uh,
I do think there's plenty of people out there that could do a good Freddy Krueger. Um,
mhm,
but I still feel like you would need Robert to play a certain version of that
mhm,
character at some point in the film.
yeah.
Also, just to sort of pass the torch if they did think about doing future things, and it's just he needs to do it, man. He needs to do it. I really hope that he gets it. Um,
Talking about Robert England, someday we hope to get him on the show.
we
If
do.
we could talk to him, we've talked about all the movies now, but if he could just come and chat with us about Elm Street, and not just about Elm Street,
Uh,
I'd happily talk to him about all his
I know,
other
but
projects, but mostly Freddy.
uh,
But yeah, like we still dream that someday we'll get to have a chat with Robert. So if anybody knows anyone that could put us in contact or something,
mhm.
just saying.
I think he's a wee bit busy, But anyway,
Yeah.
speaking of Robert England, there is a brand new documentary coming out
Mhm.
very soon. It's coming to Screambox on the 6th of June. I really hope that I got that right. Um, I'm pretty sure it's the 6th of June.
Do you want to double check?
Um, I'm going to be watching it very soon. We'll have a review up soon enough before a few days or the week before that. I have no doubt that it's going to be a 5 star for me. I know it's going to be amazing. It's from the same guys that you know directed the Pennywise documentary
Mm-hmm.
and the Leviathan documentary as well. Those guys are great. I actually interviewed
You
them
interviewed them? Yep,
a
you
few
did.
months ago, which you can watch that back on the channel. Chris and Gary, the amazing guys, just big film nerds, and I know that they're very, very excited about this documentary. They also have the RoboCop documentary coming soon.
Mhm.
So they're very busy men, but if you can go and follow them on Twitter and support this documentary, Robert Englund documentary, Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares. Um,
It's definitely at
yeah,
the 6th of June. And then
is
it's
it?
on Blu-ray on the 25th of
25th
July.
of July it is, yes, that's
Mm-hmm.
right. So please go and support them guys because they're really good dudes and they've put, years into this documentary, and Robert was obviously a huge part of it, and they got very close to Robert and his wife. So, but yeah, I interviewed him. So if you want to go and watch the interview,
It'll be tagged below.
it'll
It'll
be
be in the
below. It will
playlists.
do.
Yeah.
But please do check out on Screenbox, or wherever it may be. Screenbox isn't in the UK, so I'm sure it'll be on something in the UK. And if not, just wait till the Blu-ray till July and watch it on Blu-ray, because I'm sure there'll be some cool artwork and stuff that you get with it as well.
The
Um,
poster's very cool already.
the
The
poster's
poster looks
awesome,
really
yeah.
cool.
But no, that's all the time we have today.
Yeah.
Danny, what do these guys have to do?
Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell icon. And don't forget to leave a little comment for us. You know what to comment about. We've already talked about it. But
Give
make
us
sure
your
you leave a comment
lists.
for us. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want us to talk about Freddy versus Jason? Yes, please.
Yeah, we're game for that. Do you want us to talk
Yeah.
about the remake, reboot, whatever the fuck it was?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah.
We don't really want to, but we will for you.
We will
because
do it. We will do it.
love you guys, and we'll do anything you want. Well, not anything you want, but we will watch
Speak
that
for yourself.
for you. Well,
yeah,
only
we will
gaps.
watch it. We will watch it. But go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Fright Club NI. Follow us and like us on Facebook at the Fright Club NI, and please do subscribe to the channel. The
Please.
best way you can support us is by telling all your friends about us, and just getting them to like our videos. Yeah, or support us on social media. It really does help. A like, a comment, a share, whatever. We love it all. So please do that. But until 2 weeks' time, Danny, we'll be back in 2 weeks, as always. Stay safe, take care. All the best.
Bye.